Liberal television networks that make
back to the working man and back to big business.
this Donovan's up here.
About it. Well, didn't do it for 4 years.
I've traveled about a little bit over the
Alabama had been waiting for this governor's race for 2 years, even back when George Wallace was still insisting that the governorship held no attraction for him. Everyone expected him to change his mind. From its very inception 2 years ago, the Brewer administration has been trying to work Wallace into a corner, to put the damper on him, like the rain today in North Alabama, plotting the politics that would best make him less attractive. Some of it worked, but part of it didn't. Wallace felt challenged by the changes that Brewer instituted. He resented any inference that his administration had been sloppy with state money, and he felt somewhat betrayed by his old protege. And at the urging of his aides and his brothers, he reasoned all this into a good excuse for running. He adopted the hard, practical position that to stay alive as a national political figure, he would have to be governor of Alabama again. With two problems at that time piling up, and with the know-how to parlay the race issue into votes, Wallace launched his sixth campaign in 12 years' time.
Introduce to you my family, my mother, Mrs. George Wallace.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here this morning. I'm not expecting to run any candidates for governor. They're all fine, high-type people. Told you about it not long ago. But we find that he made a speech in which he said, they're working, man. They're talking about you. They're not trying to get rid of me. Well, I run because I want to keep that thorn in the side of those that have that foot on our neck. And they can remove that thorn.
Presidency, we caused Mr. Nixon to carry Missouri, New Jersey, Wisconsin, Ohio, California, and Illinois. And as a result, your efforts defeated for the presidency Hubert H. Humphrey. And I can sit in Montgomery as your governor and build schools and help to bring industry and help the elderly, and all at the same time keep our foot in his back and say, you remember the commitment you made, and we want you to carry it out. That's the reason this race is so important. That's the reason Senator Scott said yesterday they're holding things up because of that Wallace running down yonder in Alabama. I'm even helping the school situation just by running. And if it wasn't so important, why is Mr. Blunt, the Postmaster General from Alabama, in the Nixon cabinet? Did you know we hadn't had anybody appointed in the cabinet of a president since a fellow named Rufus King 100 years ago? And you know why they put him in the cabinet? Mr. Blunt thinks he got in there by himself. And he's making speeches saying Wallace is going to be defeated because they want us out of the way. And I want to say that the man who's bringing on inflation happens to be a man like Mr. Blunt, who's a war contractor, who made enough money on government contracts that he can live in a house that costs $750,000, that has 26 bathrooms, and he's got an air-conditioned stable for his horses, and he's got what it takes to say that the folks out at Dorsey out here are causing inflation. And that's the reason in 1964 I went out of this state, to tell people what they were doing to them. And they amended the Civil Rights Bill to say you couldn't bus any children because I brought it to their attention when I went to Wisconsin, Indiana, and Maryland. But the large newspapers, you know what they say? They say Wallace makes us ashamed of Alabama. Let me read you what the Gallup poll said Sunday in their advertising. I wonder they printed it. Said Wallace is still the thorn in the GOP side of GOP. That means in the side of Mr. Nixon. The power's in your hands. You never have had the balance of power in the South, but you've got it now, and you want to hold on to it, and you vote on May 5th is going to be a serious vote, and you think about the consequences of it, because whatever you do is all right, but I know you're going to use that power wisely. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
When I'm elected governor, in my judgment, we're going to have a return to at least on the federal level freedom of choice and the reopening of schools that have been closed by HEW edict and court edict, and the forcible assignment of teachers and pupils will come to an end, and at least at the federal level there will be freedom of choice.
How the years ran away, yesterday so much
Yes, sir.
Get you to sit on this.
Yeah, that's it. All right.
Well, this one, you gotta give me him. Huh? You want some more bit? No.
Albert Brewer had known for a long time that he wanted to be governor of Alabama, and he had worked toward that end as a part of the Wallace team. When the day finally came, as early as several hours after Mrs. Wallace's death, Brewer was warned by a Wallace insider that if he wanted a full 4-year term for himself, he would have to beat George Wallace in 1970. There wasn't nobody telling me nothing. That's the reason I turned, though.
For much too long, you have watched with disgust the increasing waste, extravagance, and inefficiency in state government. Every 4 years, the taxpayers are given a lot of promises about tightening up the state belt, about stretching the taxpayer's dollar, about economizing, but few of these promises are ever carried out. I didn't make you any promises. I just did something about it. With one simple stroke of the pen, we established the state car pool. We sold over 800 vehicles. We've got 125 in a car pool right now. You don't see state cars at football games anymore, or at the beach, or in the shopping centers. When you see a state car now, they're on state business. And you know, we saved over $1 million a year just on the state car pool operation alone for you, the people of Alabama. And this administration has done something else. It has removed from the corridors of the state capitol those agents of corruption and peddlers of influence who siphon off the tax dollars of our people. Maybe I should repeat that in plainer language. There haven't been any agents in the Brewer administration, and as long as Albert Brewer is your governor, there aren't going to be any agents in the state capitol. I won't ever do anything to embarrass you or to make you ashamed that you voted for Albert Brewer for governor on May the 5th. My friends, we've got to have leadership in this state that wants to move this state forward. My friends, we've got to have leadership that's positive and not negative. We've got to have leadership that's looking to the future and not to the past. Friends, we've got to have leadership that's for something and not against everything. You know, we get sort of discouraged sometimes and demoralized with the court orders that affect our schools, and our people get discouraged about being moved about and our teachers being assigned around and schools being closed and all of this. And these are discouraging times. But you know, there's a right way and a wrong way to try to meet problems like this. And as your governor, I've had the privilege of attacking this problem, of getting on the offensive instead of the defensive, of getting some momentum going for us, of taking our case to the courts and to the Congress and to the American people where some real relief can be understood, where people will know that we're not talking about discrimination, but we're talking about a good faith effort to educate young people like these out here today. We're going to decide on May the 5th whether this state is going to go forward or whether we're going to stand still. So let's go forward. And you were the leader in it. It was the first junior college. There's a day coming when all of the things that we've worked for and hope. Friends, I'm here today in Monroeville to tell you that there aren't any agents in state government today, and as long as I'm your governor, there are not going to be any agents in state government.
away from approaching the political campaign that way.
Do you think your slogan, full-time for Alabama, was a smart one for you to pick?
I think so, because from the months that I've been in the governor's office, I know that it's a full-time job. I know that it takes more than an 8-hour work day.
Who hasn't done it full-time before you, though?
Well, I'm not saying that anyone hasn't done it. I'm just saying that with all the things there are to be done, the people of Alabama need to be assured that they've got a governor that's willing to do the job, whatever it takes, to get this state in the shape it needs to be in, and to do the things that we all recognize need to be done in Alabama.
If you should beat George Wallace, would you consider yourself national timber or presidential timber?
No, I don't have any ambitions along that line at all. The presidency is such a, well... God's been good to me, and whereby that I see how the state of Alabama is run and how the working man's continue to tax and this sort of thing, I feel like that if I can take and get in there and use my own money to pay my own campaign expenses, I'll be beholden to no one except the working man. When I get up there, I'll be able to do what's best for the majority of the people of Alabama. So you say, well, why would a man do this? Well, when we die and we go to heaven and we stand before God and have to count for how much good we did or did not do, I think this would be a big plus in my favor. Now, it won't get you to heaven, but it'll lay up some treasures for you in heaven if you can do good while you're on this earth. And I can't think of any other place where a man can do as much good as he can be a governor of an impoverished state like Alabama, where we have so many poor people. Yeah. Yeah. No, I told him to tell you that. Yeah. Okay, fine deal. At least he's fine. Yeah, right now that's good. Well, if you when I say I have no terms of ambition, I mean I don't want to be politics all my life. That's what my
I see you're going to write a sales tax on groceries and everything. Yes, ma'am. Well, now, do they have, isn't it the regional where you're going to have one on the board?
It's approved. It's approved, like I said, by George.
I say that's what was.
Wow.
How are you going?
Yeah. Right. Now, the IRS called me about an interview or an appointment for Monday. I don't know if it's wrong. Wrong type thing.
Would you return the money and have it?
Oh, I think we'd have to take charge.
You're going to close on people in Alabama while I'm governor.
That's right. We'll just defer until Monday. Okay. You vote for Charles Wood till May the 5th. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of you. On record. That's what I
gents and the cars in the state, and they don't all get on the cars, I should say. They don't get wasted, thrown away, and these number stickers, maybe nothing cost like $50,000. Canada's governor, he's a man who stays home. That's why he wants you to get the idea that everybody can stay with him. Whereas the truth of the matter is, he controls this crowd. Biggest problem is space travel. The Arctic people are out there. Space travel. The Arctic people are out there. Every time they put a tax on Montgomery, they put on a working man.
In Alabama, that you, the working people of Alabama, only have about half the money on an average to spend or that you earn as they do in other states. In other words, you might say another way. If you left Alabama and went to another state.
Well, let's put it this way. I expected him to die. In other words, let me say this. If the Attorney General or the Governor wants the truth made known to the public of Alabama, simply let them call public hearings, subpoena witnesses, let those witnesses testify on oath, and then let the public decide who's telling the truth, who's not telling the truth. Now, you take, you say legitimate agents. Look, the state of Alabama is the only person, or I should say the only corporate entity in Alabama who purchases liquor. And do you mean to say that this ABC board member wants the people of Alabama to believe that the liquor companies keep one man here in Alabama full-time simply to sell the whiskey state of Alabama where there's only one customer? No, listen, he's not aware of how smart the people of Alabama are. We've had liquor agents for a number of years. We've still got them. And I repeat my charge. These men are politically appointed. The governor does control the advertising in the newspapers, liquor advertising, I should say. It's paid for by the taxpayers. You will remember the Montgomery Advertiser here some few years ago when they took out after the previous governor. They made the statement that it cost them several $100,000. I believe the figure they used was $400,000 in liquor licensing revenue in order for them to take out after the governor. They forego this because he jerked it from them. Yes, the governor, he places it solely at his discretion, of course, through his politically appointed ABC board.
Do you think there's any particular reason why blacks in Alabama might want to vote for you instead of some of the other candidates?
I don't know who they're going to vote for. I really don't. I think all the other candidates would like to have their vote. I welcome anybody's vote, whether they're one-legged Chinese, Indians, or what have you.
Perhaps and trust in Montgomery, if we ever are going to begin to get Alabama up off the bottom economic dollars and even over $1 billion for a governor to run a campaign in the state of Alabama.
The governor's permission, pay twice as much as you pay for milk in other states. This is wrong. It must be changed. It should be changed. It will be changed.
You know, a slave on a plantation, the master feeds him and clothes him, houses him, gives him his welfare, takes him over and tells him what to do. Repeal those sales taxes. Continued that climb with taxes on insurance. Julius Caesar said it 2,000 years ago. He said, give me the power to tax and I won't need an army. And that is what they have done. The power is right here in this own personal political career. And he'll tell that federal judge when he starts moving these children around and busing them and not be slaves to a central government. Those values have been changed. The textbooks have been rewritten. Federal judge an opportunity to punch holes in it and show where it wouldn't work.
How many different places have you hit so far? You got any idea? I know you were in South Alabama, so.
Well, I wouldn't say I turned against George. He left the cause, so he left me when he did. I wrote for him for about 5 years, those speeches for him. I was his principal speechwriter.
What has he done that you don't like, that you disapprove of?
He's accepted immigration for the children in schools. Of course, we can't have that.
Do you think that it's immoral for whites to have to go to school with blacks in Alabama?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's morally wrong. I don't think it helps the nigger at all. Disintegrating, mongrelizing, degenerate thing called government education. Albert Brewer's continued taxation on insurance, lights, gas, telephone to continue feeding this same degenerate educational system. We're financing the destruction of our own children, ladies and gentlemen. We're paying for it. The white people in the state of Alabama pay over 90% of the taxes. We pay the taxes. We're paying for the little boys and the little girls' destruction out of our own pocketbook. Did you know that only 28 cents out of a dollar bill of our tax money that goes to education ever gets down to education, to the teacher? Only 28 cents. 72 cents is eaten up in bureaucratic cost. They've got public relations agents hired down there in Montgomery working for the Department of Education. Public relations agents. They've got lobbyists down there making $12,000 and $13,000 a year. They got coordinators, supervisors, administrators, paper filler-outers, Watusi dance instructors. All of this has nothing to do with education. And when you go to free enterprise education, you do the same thing you do with everything else. You're much more competent, you're much more thrifty, and your money goes to the teacher, and that's where education is. And these children have got to come out of these schools. Oh, I know this fellow's always said, well, it's coming anyhow, not anything you can do about it. Not anything you can do about it, it's coming anyway. Let me tell you something. In 1865, this state right here, after the war between the states, was occupied by a federal army. Right here in the state of Alabama, 3/4 of that army was Negroid. Down here at the legislature, you had a legislature down there 3/4 colored. They voted by sticking their feet in the air. They consumed an average of 40 barrels of liquor and rum a day. They had a brothel in the state house. That's what they thought of our civilization. In 1 year, they confiscated 190,000 farms and homes from these poor old redneck great-granddaddies of ours. And they come around these shotgun shacks they lived in, and they offered them a piece of paper to sell us out. They could have cooperated and sold you and me out. Every one of them could have. Very easily. If they'd signed that paper that they would integrate and cooperate with a carpetbagger and the federal authorities, they could go to any federal storehouse and draw shoes for our great-grandma's feet so they wouldn't have to go barefooted. They could go there and get cloths so they wouldn't have to wear a toe sack for a dress. They could get flour and beans to eat. But they refused to do it almost to a man. They went out in the woods and cut poke salad. That's where it come from, Reconstruction times. And they put it in an iron pot and throwed fat back in it to cook the poison out. They went out in the woods and they dug sweet roots to make soup out of. They dropped Indian corn in the ground and made grits of a morning. That's all they had to eat. That's why grits are served in every cafe in this Southland. But I'll tell you something else they've done. They fought their way back up off their knees and onto their feet, and they refused to integrate. They refused to cooperate. In 1874, they whipped them. They whipped them. And they drove them out like their great-granddaddies had whipped kings. You belong to a race of men that have whipped kings for hundreds of years. What in the devil is a two-bit federal judge?
to the peaks of Lookout Mountain. And that point overlooking Chattanooga. But there's a reason for me being governor the first time, the first place. Years. Not 140, from 1842, when they stole, bought, and paid for the capital and moved it from Tuscaloosa to Montgomery. Now, Governor Strom Thurmond, everybody knows him and heard of him. The press here has heard of him. They've all seen him. You've seen him on the television. And George Wallace has got that big-shot black man every time, ever since. I'll tell you that right now. But as the reactionaries, the ex-slaveholders began to get more powerful and more powerful and more powerful, they moved in 1901 and wrote this monstrosity that you have to live under now. Back in our southern competitor, at this moment, and we're against slavery on this mountain, whatever we ain't, we're against slavery. And a lot of other legislators and Congress do the same thing. It's not right for him to go down there and take $300,000 or $400,000 in fees just because you set him down there. It just ain't right in nobody's league. Now, something's got to be done about it. And that's what we're going to put up. And it needs to be done in every state in the Union. We got reapportionment in every state in the Union, and that's going to be the next big fight.
When on the hill that far
Good morning. No, really.
The boys tell you what we need. A little big brother for that new.
Well, when Big Jim and I was both younger, we'd start out January, February, snow, sleet, ice, and snow on the ground. And at that time, we would work so hard, by April, we would go in almost with a tongue hanging out, exhausted. So I think it's been real good for both of us to wait and really get hot in April. Pick up steam.
Do you plan to get out and work very much, Rick?
Well, anything Jim asks me to do, I'm ready.
I believe in them. I believe I should have 25. I can't match elected to the state chose that they just took what they wanted. Well, I stopped that. And everything that I got that other people was getting, I put it out on the roads in the schools. I stole it from them and gave it to you. You rode up on one of them. This full lane you come up on.
About your campaign, the mustache is something new. You think this might be of some help to you?
Oh, that's certainly, that's the style. I'm just in style. As long as you're in style, it don't hurt you.
You think that might be a sign of the liberalism that you used to exhibit when you were
Well, I've always been liberal. I didn't used to. I've always been that way. I mean, the rights of man. The Constitution. One man, one vote. The right of the black man to vote. Whether I like him or not, I want him to have his right. My people run the Indian law. They done wrong. When some of my people went off with them to Oklahoma, the oil struck on the property, and they got to be worth $40-50 million. Our Constitution has got to go back. Whether it's Chinaman or real or bad. If it don't, the government won't stand. That ain't liberal, it ain't radical, it ain't nothing. It's just wrote that way. Whenever they bought the capital and moved it to Tuscaloosa, the slaveholders did, they bought it and paid for it and moved it to Montgomery. And they wrote a slaveholders law. And it stayed that way till slavery was abolished. And then they wrote a constitution, a democratic constitution. In 1801, the ex-slaveholders, 1901 I mean, the ex-slaveholders got control and outlawed the Negro and the poor white man. And they used the Negro as excuse. And they wrote us a bad constitution.
And we don't have the national third party of Sand Mountain and North Alabama. Constitution law. And there's a lot of them down yonder in Montgomery now. Introduce you, your next governor, I hope, and my next governor, Coleman Brown. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all of you people for being here. Another thing I'd like to remind you of, that I am not a professional speaker, so you don't have to forgive me for my mistakes and my blunders. My opinion, our present governor has been a Me Too man all the way through this administration. And he has a weak plank to stand on. The only way we can accomplish anything through the federal courts is by presenting them with legal writs in the Hall of Justice. We will never accomplish anything by standing here in the state of Alabama crowing like a bantam rooster about what we're going to do to the federal government, because we just don't have the power.
Mr. Brown, when you make a speech to a group of people like this, do you feel that they're paying any attention to what you say, or that because you're politically unknown, they don't really care?
No, I think they're paying attention to what I said because they're interested in my issues and not just because I'm politically unknown or known. I guess everybody knows that each one of us has the same right to enter into a political race, so I don't think there should be any difference in my entering than any of the rest of the candidates. Some of the people seem to think you'd have to be worth $1 million to qualify for public office. I don't think that's the case at all myself, and I think the majority of the people in Alabama feel the same.
about Andalusia, you know, that's where I told you I went down when I ran for governor in 58, and I knocked Wallace off the platform with my tongue. I believe it was, and buried him off. And the thing about it is,